Now moving into the topic foreshadowed, tree protection. We're seeing a catastrophic loss of tree canopy cover across the Greater Adelaide metropolitan region, a loss of 75,000 trees annually in Greater Adelaide in an increasingly hotter climate. The South Australian Government has a target to increase the percentage of tree cover by 20% by 2045. What will you do to ensure through legislation that Adelaide's tree canopy increases and meets the 2045 target, bearing in mind the current losses? What strategies would you take to ensure the retention of significant trees, in brackets, when developers and disinterested property owners can freely ask for and succeed in having them destroyed? Those questions were suggested by Anne Wharton, Henry Critchoff and Peter Harwald. So, Dr. Close, you started to deal with this one, so I'll go to you first.
I'm sorry I jumped ahead like that. So the heritage policy that will be up on our website on the weekend will include reference to changing tree protection regulations so that we are Australia's best practice, not that we are at the bottom of the pile. And there is a great deal of complexity that Tom Morrison, as I say, and the Conservation Council of South Australia have identified in the way in which our tree protection laws work in comparison to other states. So what I've committed to is that we will become Australia's best practice and we'll work through that serially. Is there a time later where we get to talk about the wider natural environment, or is this a good opportunity to talk about heritage agreements?
We're not. The wider natural environment and heritage agreements are not on the list of topics now.
So just to say briefly that time ago we announced $6 million should we win, to increase the number of heritage agreements and the amount of money available to people who have heritage agreements to protect private lands, and also $1 million to go to Landscape SA to help resource the volunteer work that goes to replanting.
Okay, thank you. Going now to the Greens Party next, Honourable Robert Sims.
Thank you. And I do just want to acknowledge that commitment from the Labor Party around significant trees. We really welcome that. And certainly from our perspective, we'd be keen, if the Labor Party are in government, to work with them to make that happen and to make sure, that not only are we best practice in Australia, but that we really lead the way in terms of our protection of significant trees. It's a big priority for us, something my predecessor, Mark Parnell, did a lot of work on, and something I'm keen to continue to look at, ensuring that we don't see destruction of these trees that, predate all of us and that play such an important part of our heritage. But we also need to do more in terms of ensuring that we're planting more trees. Legislatively, I think we need to ensure that there's a framework that mandates developers to have green space and be planting trees as part of their projects. But more broadly, we need to see a big investment from government to make tree planting happen. One of the things that the Greens have done this election is we've put forward a costed platform of things that we could do if we ensured that developers, mining corporations, big banks were paying their fair share of tax. And we've announced a $265 million tree planting project is something that you could do if you brought in that revenue. And with that amount of money, a $265 million investment, we could plant 2.5 million trees over 10 years. And we've worked out that would create over 1,000 jobs across the state, really significantly lift our tree canopy and, create some good environmental jobs as well. So look, certainly that'll be on the negotiating table for me in the next Parliament too. I'd be very happy to present those ideas to whoever the Environment Minister might be and push them to make sure that this is a key priority. Because at a time of climate crisis, we can't afford to wait until 2040 and have this dealt with sometime off in the never never, as the Liberals have proposed. We need to take real action now to arrest the decline of our trees.
Some positive suggestions there. Thank you. The Honourable Frank Pangallo.
Thank you, Chair. You're probably around the same vintage as I am, so I would say let's bring back Arbor Days for a start. Funnily enough, I can go into the western suburbs and I can still see the trees that I and my classmates planted many years ago. And we seem to have lost sight of something like that, where this was a common practice for many years. And it's a pity that that has disappeared. And it would be great to actually see that come back. But look, it can be a complex issue, protecting significant trees. And I would like to just pay credit here to one of the councils, the Burnside Council, for instance, and I've had discussions with their CEO and their officers there. They keep a register of every tree in the council area, and I think there's something like 50,000 of them. And they can tell you the condition of each one of those trees. And I think it's a great initiative, and it's something that other local government areas, and look, there probably are some out there that do it, but I think that is an important thing as well, that keep a register of trees and also look out for adding to the canopy cover that also exists in those areas. But look, I think a lot of local government areas are now becoming very conscious of tree canopy coverage. And there's been a lot of work and a lot of reports that have been done, Green Adelaide as well. And I think we're starting to see some benefits as a result of that, and people becoming aware that they need to do it. The only issue I think that we also do need to address is the type of trees, or the circumference of trees, perhaps, that need to be protected more. It's something that the legislators will need to look at probably in the new parliament. I'm sure it will come up then. But that's about it.
Thank you. The Honourable Sam Talib.
Thanks very much. A really important question. I think Susan alluded to it as well, but I hope everyone's had a chance to read Comparison of Australian Tree Laws, and it's a great publication put together by Tom Morrison, who lives in my community, and many others as well. But on the back of releasing of that report, I actually introduced into Parliament last year the Exceptional Tree Register Bill that addresses many of the issues in this report. Unfortunately, my legislation at a vote wasn't supported by the government, and Labor reserved their right on it. So Parliament already has this legislation on the table. And once again, it's the crossbench that have been leading the way on this issue. So there already is legislation in Parliament that deals with many of the great recommendations out of this report, which is really important. And sort of touching on a bit of a policy initiative of Rob's is in Sam's plan, which is, of course, some great promotional stuff, but is the Great State Tree Voucher. We've had the government do hospitality and tourism vouchers, but I think there's a great space for the Great State Tree Voucher, a $10 million investment to help families, homes purchase a tree from their local nursery, and obviously have a reimbursement from the government as well. So a real way that we could plant 1 million trees in a short amount of time to really help our canopy across metropolitan Adelaide.
Thank you. Interesting initiative to encourage tree planting.